Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I am Dr. Ben Spears, the ambassador of Flow. I'm here with the big guy, as usual, Matt Vi,
The ambassador of Go.
the ambassador of Go.
The ambassador of No, if you ask my family.
That's not true. Come on, man, you big teddy bear.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you big teddy bear.
The big Sasquatch.
Yeah. So, how's it going, Matt?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, Ben. Absolutely fantastic.
Man, you're always doing fantastic. And I love that. And I love that.
Yep.
And I hope that just at least 1% of that's because of me.
So how are you doing, Ben?
Man, I'm doing so good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. My kids started school today.
Yep, right.
That I'm not one of those guys. I'm like, yes, the kids are out of the house. There ain't that kind of thing. But I'm kind of like that.
Yeah, right.
I'm kind of like that today.
Yep, yep.
And my son started middle school.
I know, right?
Right, and it's like I let him out of the car and I see him walking with all these giants.
Yep.
And I'm like, man,
hear you.
Time just flies, man. So
My daughter's a sophomore in high school.
that's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, just from the first time I've known you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know,
So
man. I know.
yeah. Well,
Time waits for
time,
no person.
Wait, yeah, it's saying no brokerage.
That's right. That's right.
So Matt, what are we talking about today?
Are you at the top of your game? And if
Yeah.
so, do people know it?
Oh yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, guys, before we dive into that, hopefully you're at the top of your game, and hopefully people know it. But before we dive into that, wherever you're listening to this and watching this, hit that follow or that subscribe button. There's no better time than to go take a sneak peek of the Brokerpreneur Fast Track on our homepage, brokerpreneurpodcast.com, and see this really killer, awesome platform that Matt and I have built out to help you grow your brokerage and, let people know how awesome you are on top of that.
Absolutely.
So, Matt,
Yep.
you gotta take a look at yourself.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
You got to assess a few things. We have on our show notes, assess your current role, assess your strengths and weaknesses. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So actually, we have on there asses. I didn't put the C's.
What? Well, that's no, you did it right. It's just another S at the end.
Oh, I got you.
Right? It's asses, your current role. Asses, your strengths and weaknesses. I'm okay with that.
I think we all know spelling and grammar are the bane of my existence.
Yeah,
man.
it was. I tried to just ease over it. Man.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Hey, you see that?
I appreciate that. But that's why the blog posts are so funny, right? The ideas take me about 3 minutes, but the writing everything takes me about 36 hours, right? So here's the question, right? Would you go to work for you?
Yeah, I
Let's
would
start with that.
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I got that. I don't know if I'd go to work for me.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go work for you either.
Yeah. So, so you got to take a close look, right, at all of that. Would you,
Yeah.
right? Would you go to work for you? If so, why? And if not, why? Right.
Yeah.
Now, put your personality into this a little bit, right? Let's be honest with ourselves first. Are you just always beating yourself up and you're going, "Oh, I'd never go to work for me," right?
Yeah.
Or are you just so big-headed with your ego, "Man, everybody should come to work for me," right?
Yeah.
Or are you right in the middle and you taking a serious look at would you or would you not?
Yeah. Or are you a perfectionist? Right? Because everybody's got pros and cons.
Yep.
Everybody on the planet.
Right.
And man, maybe you're just like the best person to work for ever, but just like you were talking about, you focus on this one little thing that's like, we talked last podcast about cleaning the garage out. Oh, I got dirt under my fingernails today.
Right.
No way I would come work.
Right.
For me.
That's right. That's right. Or you say, I don't need to clean the garage again because I got dirt under my fingernails now.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's just being too particular about that stuff.
Exactly.
Right? And then because that's who you're going to attract.
That's right.
Right. And so if you're picky and particular and meticulous and obsessive about those things, man, that's the message you're going to get across, and that the people that want it are going to come work. Okay. So
Yep.
we get that, right? We know that. Okay. So first of all, that's what I would take a look at, right?
Yep.
Would I go to work for me? And then what am I good at? Okay. And why am I good at those things? And then why am I weak at them? And then here's an important part on all of this. The things that you're really good at, how do you get the word out about those? Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, man, I'm really good at this, but I don't want to go brag about that. Completely get it. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't get the word out about it. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But what are you bad at? Man, who's covering the bases on that? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're a recruiter and you love picking up the phone and dialing and reaching out, but man, you just hate following up, You have to find somebody that's good at that. That's good at that follow up and that follow through. You got to
You know
find
it.
a way of doing that. You can do it with a system, right? You can do it with CRM. We talk about that all the time, right? There's great ways that you can do that follow up, but that's not going to substitute that human connection that you have. You have to
Absolutely.
make sure, right, that you stay connected on that, and that you allow what you're good at to come through in the conversations you're having with people without being big headed about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So so once you assess those things,
Right.
once you assess those things,
Right.
and you determine what you're good at, right? Now you're looking at, okay, where do I need to improve? You just talked a little bit. Pardon me. You can expand on this maybe, but you just talked about finding ways to close that
Right.
gap. Have someone else do that. Have some sort of RPA. Have some sort of CRM. Maybe help with that. Let's talk a little bit about learning and how they improve, and then let's go on into asking the question. Essentially, what is the last thing that you learned?
Yeah, I think that's where we actually start, man.
Perfect.
What is the last thing that you as a broker learned? Okay.
Yeah.
Not what did you improve on?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the last thing that you learned? What is out of your wheelhouse completely that you were like, man, I didn't know that. So here's one of the things that recently I've paid attention to that a year ago I just didn't pay any attention to. Okay.
Yeah.
And now I can't get enough of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've all heard about AI, right? AI is going to this, AI is going to that. Okay. Here to me, and I'm not going to get into graphs and all that kind of stuff, right? Which Ben's had to sit through me writing stuff all over the whiteboard going, holy crap, do you see this? If this happens, and this is what's going to go on in the real estate business. But here's what's happening with AI that I think we need to pay attention to.
Yep.
AI is tracking and processing and using the benefit of understanding neurolinguistic NLP.
Yep.
Okay, better than people are.
Yeah. Oh, for
So
sure.
it's making adjustments based on that. If you go look at anything that has to do with AI right now, it's gonna be almost like in the small
The
print,
fine print. Yeah.
but it's talking about NLP.
Yeah.
Okay, it's talking about neurolinguistic programming. Okay,
Yep.
how you say something is important as what you say, right?
Yep.
And so what's happening is this AI is starting to learn that at a pace that's outpacing humans learning that. Okay,
Yep.
all right. So that's one of the last things I learned, right? And now I can't get enough of it.
Oh, for sure.
Everything I look at now, right? I'm like, where is the AI in that? And where is this? And where's the that? And if this does this, then this does that. And how? Okay, and I'm extremely convinced I am at an embryo stage in what I understand of this.
Right.
Okay.
Does that mean when you look at me, where you used to see real intelligence, now you just see artificial intelligence?
I just see dad jokes when I look at you. Ben.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Right.
I'm a dad. Man, I tell jokes.
No. That's not
Okay,
what I
good.
said.
Okay, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Okay.
But there is just there's just a whole new world to it, and so I have to be careful not to become obsessive about it. Just like you, we got to be careful, not going overboard with what we learn. But that was one of the things that I've learned that now has expanded into this podcast.
Yeah.
It's helping the people in this podcast because I learned something if they're paying attention to this and seeing what the potential of that, because if they can plug that into CRM, so remember, this is what I said, where I said this would be the biggest impact first, okay,
Yeah.
long ago. How well the CRM interacts in an automated way, how effectively it creates relationships with people is going to be the big place that AI begins to really thrive. Okay.
Yeah.
This NLP just supports that. It focusing in on the NLP side of things, and I shouldn't say focusing in on it because it's only a piece of what it does, right? I mean, there's so many different data points that they're looking at with this, but that's going to make a big difference, right? That's going to impact how effectively I spend my time with someone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So what is it that you've learned? What is it that you've paid attention to? What is it that you've went outside your wheelhouse? And I'm not just saying if you're great at CMAs, you didn't go take another class on how to be a better CMA an appraiser. Okay. I'm saying, when did you step back and go, okay, I'm weak, or I have no understanding of this, or I didn't know about this until yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm going to
What's
go
a
learn something.
CMA?
What's a CMA, right? So what am I gonna do to dig into that, to go to that next level, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where you start. I think that's
Yeah.
the beginning of the conversation.
I think whatever that step is, I crush it at that.
Yeah, you love to learn.
I love to learn. I am constantly learning, and to a fault. Matt, we talk a lot about behaviors,
Right.
right? And specifically, obviously from a brokerage standpoint, we all have behaviors, but obviously from a brokerage standpoint, most of us, most of our listeners kind of have an idea of what they need to do.
Right. Absolutely.
It's the behavior, the
Yep.
action, the execution that says, okay, well, how do you get from point A to point B on that map?
Yeah.
Hey guys, this episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast is brought to you by the Speculo Group. The Speculo Group is the turnkey solution for agent and brokerage lead generation. With a focus on generating the highest quality leads from platforms like Google, YouTube, Facebook, and more, the Speculo Group is your one-stop shop to dominating your local market and beyond. Visit their website for more information at thespeculogroup.com.
Yeah, so I'm not going to go really far into this.
No, for sure.
But there's a lot of other conversation about this that we could have, right? So your understanding of something and what you're doing. So the way that your mind goes through being great at something is there is a conscious, a non-conscious acceptance of that. Okay, it might be a minor acceptance, but it's an acceptance of it.
Yep.
And then there is, and whenever I say non-conscious, I mean subconscious, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't call it subconscious because it's not subordinate. It's
Gotcha.
not under consciousness. It is
Right.
absolutely more dominant than consciousness. And
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I say non-conscious, right? So, but that's what I mean. So it starts with an acceptance in your non-conscious, okay, and then your consciousness begins to add programming to that non-consciousness. And then that turns into a habit and readjust your non-consciousness so that something's a habit to do it. Okay. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that I just want a cold call to get listings, right? For sale by owners. Okay. Something forces me to accept that. But if my non-consciousness does not accept that, I don't care how hard you try, you're never going to feel comfortable. You're never going to succeed at it. Okay. Now at some point, you can put enough information in from your consciousness that will start reprogramming your non-conscious that will allow you to start feeling differently about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I'm calling for sale by owners and man, phone's slamming down. I don't need you. You suck. No way I'd pay to sell my house, all that kind of stuff. And the whole time your non-conscious is going, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it's going to happen. You right, the real estate's horrible. Right? And then all of a sudden you talk to somebody and they're like, oh my God, you're like the fifth person that's called today, but there's just something about you that what you just said really resonated with me. Do you mind coming out here and taking a look?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of a sudden now something from your consciousness is starting to rewrite your non-conscious. So you've got a million lines, let's say, of why you should hate for sale by owners, cold calling for sale by owners.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you have one line that's being pushed into that code.
Yep.
That line acts like a virus if you allow it.
Yeah.
Man, it will dominate that code that's in there if you allow it. So if you can be intentional about the things that you're doing, it can change your non-conscious programming. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have to do it often enough. And so what happens is our non-consciousness the whole time is saying, yes, I understand we've got that one great code, but I've got a million other lines of code that say no. Right?
Yeah.
And so you've got to stay with that long enough until what finally happens is your non-conscious says, oh, my code has changed enough. The virus has taken over. I see the hope in whatever that is. I'm going to continue doing that thing.
Right.
That is the process that most people are not willing to go through.
Oh, for sure.
And so they start with something, they have to have that basic level of acceptance in their non-conscious that says, at least I'll try it.
Yeah.
Okay. Phobias are in that area when that doesn't happen, right?
Yes.
But that's why Tony Robbins can stand up there and Gary Cox can stand up there and convince people to hold a snake that would faint holding a snake before.
Yeah.
It's because he understands how to make that shift with them, or both of them do. But then you go to that place where it's not a habit yet. And it's not something that you are that the programming has been reworded, right? That it's been rewritten.
Right.
Excuse me, not reworded. It hasn't been rewritten yet. But man, you just keep going there and you keep feeding it until hopefully that new virus takes over.
Yeah.
and then it turns into a habit. That middle area is where brokers fail when it comes to recruiting. That's where they fail on retention. That's where they fail on per person productivity.
Yeah.
They do not stay in the behavior long enough for it to become a habit and allow that programming to be overrun by the virus.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
And so that is why, that's why we have everything set up the way that we have it set up.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's just a coaching call that you're on, did you really have acceptance in your non-conscious? Were you really going to do that?
Yeah. Nah.
Maybe not, right?
Yeah.
You knew you wanted to change. You're in that middle ground, but it hasn't turned into a habit yet. What's going to turn it into a habit? A whole bunch of other programming from other people. So you're in a group with a whole bunch of other people, and so now it's not just what am I experiencing. It's, hey, Matt said to do this. Dr. Ben said to do this. I did a little bit of it. I'm afraid that's changing my programming a little bit, but holy crap, you know what else is happening that's powerful? Sherry just said that she was doing this, and this is the result that she got. Sean just said that he was doing this, and this is the result that they got. Now, all of a sudden that virus that is in that's coming from that conscious area to that non-conscious is a more powerful code. It's a more powerful virus overtaking that programming, which adjusts the behaviors. I don't care what the brokers know about recruiting, period. I don't care.
Yeah.
They're not freaking doing it.
No,
that's
for sure.
where the issue comes in, is they're not changing. They're not taking the time, forcing their conscious to go into their non-conscious to do the things that they need to. That's why they have to be careful about leaning on just the CRM.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because they're never getting past that middle ground because it's not reprogramming them.
Yep. And the same brokers in their market are using those same CRMs and
Right, of course, yeah.
and doing all that too. So
right.
You just can't. It's tough to personalize. It's tough to actually be yourself.
Right, and there's things out there now that are super intuitive and smart, and like we said, there's they're taking NLP into account and all that kind of. So there's a lot of things that are evolving for sure, and having some results. That's not going to change your behavior.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's gonna allow you to respond to the part that you want, but it's not going to change your behavior. The behavior is what needs to change.
Yeah.
We've said this so many times.
Oh, for sure.
It's not the map. It's not about the map.
It's the terrain.
It's the terrain.
Yep.
That's what holds people up for sure.
Yep.
Sorry, I'll get off a soapbox. I know I got a little soapboxy on that.
That's okay. There's like another bullet point on here, but I really kind of just want to end the podcast, Eric, and leave that in people's minds, honestly. So think about that, guys.
Yeah.
Go to your settings in your brain.
Right.
Lower your firewall.
Right.
Right. Hit the consciousness folder and say allow pop-ups from this browser, and let that virus take over inside of your mind. I need to come up with something now like a reconscious.
Ah, there you go.
All right, we got a conscious, a sub, a non, an un. We need like a pre.
Pre-conscious.
Pre-conscious. I feel like that's how I wake up
every
every
one
morning.
of those, buddy.
That's how I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hey, what's up? Go to Brokerpreneur Podcast, guys, and check out our Brokerpreneur Fast Track. Take a sneak peek right there on the homepage, brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Also, we would love to see you every Friday, whenever Friday you have available from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time at the Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. Yep. It is absolutely free to attend. We have it every single Friday. Brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Just click on Brokerpreneur Not
BNSSS.
BNSSS. You'll see it that way sometimes. And register. It lets us know that you're coming and
Ben, SSS.
Yeah, exactly. Why you gotta say Ben that way?
Ben.
Right? It's like you're from where I'm from. So Matt, we dive into our non-conscious.
Right.
Right? I try to, guys. I dip my toe in there, right? My jokes are only like surface level. But we still bring everything to this podcast that we can for one reason alone. Tell them why that is.
Man, we just want to be part of their win.
You know it.